Guys, I'm dropping a bomb here. The warrior main said that Paragon was dog shit, and it didn't actually change that much. Now they're saying it's good. I'm just saying, guys. Just saying.
Oh, golly gee. Almost as if the changes our internet pushed through actually addressed community's concerns. That couldn't possibly be the case, could it? But let's give the weak coffee jar some benefit of the doubt. No one has the time in a day to keep up with nuances of each respective class, let alone their respective subcommunities, so it's understandably easy to miss nuance and make an ass of yourself. Hell, this whole intro could be me misinterpreting the joke and making ass of myself. But hey, it would only prove my point. Nevertheless, if you want to see me make ass of myself more, make sure you've done all the usual YouTube nonsense and consider supporting like those generous gentlemen do. And without further ado, let's get into nuance. As we stated in previous Paragon video, there's been a stellar improvement between Paragon's beta state and the release state. That remains as true as I remain bad at the game. However, the improvement in question doesn't make it flawless, and depending how deep you look into details, even happen to introduce new tiny flaws in place of the old ones. And nothing portrays that better than the visual update, so let's address the wings in the room.
I'm a bird.
There's a lot I like about Paragon's wings, and equally as much things I dislike, so I understand why opinions of the experts are divided. Paragon's wings appearing specifically when you are in 3rd tier refrain is very good idea, as it gives immediate recognizable visual response when you manage motivation well. Additionally, the bold and brazen visual of those wings lets your allies track your position in a fight better and know who to stick to for boons and heals. That however also applies to your enemies in PvP, making you a walking magnet for an enemy focused fire. But at least it looks cool.
Or does it?
The wings we were given clearly got ramshackled off of elite skill animation and just bolted to our back as the last ditch effort before shipping the X-Pack. Without the VFX of the elite, those look worse than expected. They are completely stiff, are pointing directly sideways, and whenever we're wielding a two-handed weapon that makes the character tilt the torso, the wings tilt with it, taking away from their etheric aesthetic and make for the impression of glued-on decorations more than anything. Not to mention the color they used seems to be a strong reference to Team Fortress 2. Piss! The wings just look like placeholder version of themselves. They're just recolored hawk wings and glider. They seem practical, where they should be purely performative. Think winged hussars and their immaculate vibe. For 0.5 version, the wings are very solid, but with little iteration those wings could go from decent to great. For example, wings in Paragon's promotional art are pointing a bit upwards, not directly sideways, and so the wings in-game could be angled more up and a little more to the back. Furthermore, they could be less glued to the player's back, especially in running animations, so they don't tilt with character's posture. And finally, they could be less solid, more translucent, more floaty, less forbidden lemonade yellow, and perhaps reusing some trail effect from somewhere to finish up the visual flair. And just like that, with a little tweaking and better shade of yellow, we could make Paragon's main visual flair an actual expansion seller. We're this close. Just keep iterating on what you have, and we will be there in no time. The same applies to Paragon's toolset. We are on the right track, it just needs further iteration. It's especially close in PvE, where only thing it needs is convenience. With grand total of plus 40% of all damage between pacing and stanzas, the Paragon's damage output is close enough to that of Spellbreaker, where it won't make a difference for majority of players, all the while having more versatility in its target priority. You see, portion of Spellbreaker's damage bonuses is single target, and also constrained to 600 units of range on top of that, where all of Paragon's damage traits apply to everything and have no predetermined maximum range, making his gameplay less constrained and more free-flowing. Considering that Paragon can also access, through combination of Relic of Pirate Queen and his own traits, full upkeep of quickness and alacrity, on top of having baseline access to barrier, healing, regen, stability, swiftness and both damage reduction boons, makes Paragon in PvE have solid potential to become essentially a better spellbreaker, which is truthfully ironic considering the beta state of the spec was essentially just worse spellbreaker. That said, PvE Paragon still has its own hurdles, which pertain to three things: motivation economy, trait order, and gaps in toolset.
Show me your motivation.
I like motivation as a concept, as it allows for degree of optimization we simply haven't seen in Warrior before, and opens up for broader usability. However, it is extremely easy to overcap on motivation, even if you play optimally. For example, if you use Signet of Fury, you get 30 adrenaline. If you spend all of that at once, you effectively waste 2 motivation already. Furthermore, if you play with discipline, your refrain pulses and your weapon swap timings constantly desynchronize, due to one being on 5-second interval and other on 3-second, doubled to 6. You have to delay your weapon swaps and bursts every time, which feels awfully unintuitive. Similarly, the very fact that you will both spend and generate 6 motivation during this procedure keeps you at max capacity, while you will still have to continuously cast chance to generate alacrity, meaning you will waste motivation, which just feels bad. If there was a way to temporarily go over the motivation cap, for example, you could store as much motivation as you want, but everything above 10 will disappear after every refrain pulse. That would alleviate the hurdles pertaining to wasted motivation, while still encouraging resource optimization, so you lose as little as necessary. Secondary, lesser complaint of mine is that you cannot build motivation while no refrain is active. That makes situations when you have not enough adrenaline to do both, but casting burst due to trait interactions, for example between Flurry and Opportunist, would generate enough adrenaline to do both, to just sting in the soul. Make it so bursts can generate motivation out of refrain, but it just drops over time like adrenaline does out of combat, and we're golden. And final thing on motivation, call to action should not exist. It's a convenience crutch that no Paragon build realistically needs anymore, and it only takes up space for actually useful utility and makes casuals complacent. It literally just saves you 10 adrenaline once per encounter. Just put an actual adrenaline generation trait in its place and we will be better for it.
Behold my stuff.
Speaking of traits, brisk pacing and stanzas should be swapped places. You see, for DPS Paragon, camping one refrain is much more plausible than for support, and they are actually allowed the choice whether or not they want to switch refrains. Supports, however, not only are incentivized to juggle refrains much more, but on average want to stick to more costly refrains for the sake of healing and protecting. Understandably, therefore, stanzas, which rewards each refrain differently, is much less convenient for them than always present benefits from motivation threshold traits such as unyielding resolve and brisk pacing. Making so Paragon can run brisk pacing and feverish pulls together would be nothing but convenience for players, especially those enjoying Paragon in open world. Put those traits back where they were in the beta and just readjust the numbers. That will be the best course of action for everyone involved. One specific concern: level 1 bursts only. Of course, you may already be aware of weapons like Axe Mainhand. Axe's entire existence in PvE is based in you playing Berserker and spamming Decapitate like your one-man French Revolution. And so, in hands of someone who can't spam Decapitate, Axe remains clinically underpowered. Of course, we can't just buff every level 1 burst of every weapon that scales damage with adrenaline level. But we can utilize the fact that Paragon already scales with motivation, just making weapon burst levels scale with current motivation threshold. Enabling burst to scale with motivation would not increase damage output of daggers or greatsword, but would help weapons like axe and spear to become more of a competitive choice for Paragon looking to diversify their arsenal. Speaking of, we didn't get a single conditioned weapon since 2014, and from those we have, only swords remain relevant. Please send help.
They jumping me! They jumping me!
Last inconvenience Paragon faces in PvE is lack of better options for CC and for self-stun break. Sure, on your knees does defiance damage, but it's a false CC that doesn't activate CC traits or relics, so we're stuck with physical skills if we need to proc Pirate Queen or Opportunist. Similarly, because Chant of Freedom doesn't actually stun break yourself, we're still in position where we have to choose between utility skills that let us pump out more damage, or to salvage the situation when you get hit with bullshit you cannot see because every dead fuck from Kanta is JoJo posing in the middle of your screen covering orange circles on the ground. Fornicating ritualists are a bloody plague. Why not take the lesson from Berserker and add self-stun break to the effects of liberating Lees? Both PvE and PvP folks would thank you. Summarizing, wings are decent, just need a little more polish. Motivation is decent, just needs a buffer so playing optimally in specific scenarios doesn't waste the resource, aka a little more polish. Traits are decent, just need a little reshuffling, a little reduction in redundancies, a few missing niches filled, and a little more polish. Paragon's weapon choices are also decent, just need a little juice to help currently underpowered weapons to see some action. If devs don't stop iterating on Paragon and just finish polishing it, we're likely to see an actual game changer in terms of PvE for Warrior. Possibly even a proof that increasing complexity of the Warrior as a class and making it cooler, so to speak, is the correct path forward, and that devs shouldn't continuously sideline the entire class just because Spellbreaker manages to function. And as always, a big sign of gratitude to all the generous supporters continuously considering my dubious quality content worth their money. You're all truly welcome. Crabface out.